All right, so I'm here with my buddy here, Daniel, and Lindsay over there in the kitchen, and Shep. Hey, Shep. Yeah. So Daniel and I were talking this morning, so we went for a really good workout, doing a little martial arts, and then we were having a little bit of a conversation afterwards, and he and I are both kind of type A, go get 'em, right, success-oriented people, but we have made ourselves successful in several different areas of life. And when you see that happening for a person like myself that has been through this quite a bit, you know that doesn't happen by accident. You know that if that person is flying a jet fighter and you're flying a jet fighter, you know that he has had to learn the aerodynamics of flying jets, and it doesn't matter about his color, it doesn't matter about his nationality, it doesn't even matter about gender. What matters is that you follow the rules of being a jet fighter pilot. So as I'm talking to Daniel, he started talking about these 5 F's, which in my training with Tony Robbins, where I came to understand that there were some things that you had to focus on in order to be uniformly successful in life, over several areas. So you had to focus on your health, you had to focus on your finances, and you had to focus on human relationships. So Daniel has distilled this into what he calls the 5 F's, and so I want you to just extrapolate on those 5 F's and how they play a role in your life.
I will, absolutely. And actually, 5 F's were introduced to me by one of my mentors, Tony Long, and he basically suggested to me that I take, all this passion, all these dreams and desires, and isolate them into these different categories that were organized, that I could then check on from time to time, and I could see, technical, tangible, analytical evidence of my success and my failures. And for me, the 5 F's are faith, family, which obviously is my wife and child and my extended family, fitness, firm, which in my case is business, and finances. So 5 F's. And, for me, it gave me an opportunity to kind of have, the control panel in front of me, to use the fighter jet analogy, where, I have everything I need, and I have to check my gauges, and I've got to check the fuel level, and I've got to check the infrared, and I've got to check all these things to know if I'm collectively going in the right direction. As a father now, and as a husband, I'm a pack leader. I'm not just an independent man, so I've got to look out for, what's going on in my family. And the best way that I can, there's an old Latin saying, is sic utro tulit alienum non latus, and it means the best thing that you can do for the world is to be your best self possible. And so for me to be my best self possible, it starts with faith. I've got to be calm. I've got to believe it's impossible to please God without faith. I have to have faith that He is in control, and that He has put upon my mind, heart, and body the desires that He has, that He wants me to execute. You talked earlier about the carrot. I have a predilection for certain things because that's the direction God wants me to go in. I must talk to Him early in the morning, otherwise I'm scatterbrained. And as much success as I'd like to think I've had in these 5 F categories, I can be as successful in the biggest failing way possible if I don't. And it's an everyday consistent thing for me. I had 14 good days in a row, and ego gets big, and I don't need to have this time with God, and boom, I would fall on my face. And by the grace of God, it's not a tremendous break your nose type fall. Typically, it's just been a recorrection in my life. Family, obviously, is, in my opinion, you can't see God, but you can see your brothers and sisters. And so that is my duty to love them, the way Christ loves the church, and to love them the way that I love God, and to be a good listener, to not just ask my wife how I can be a better husband, to find out and to execute on how I can be a better husband. And it's so easy as a young type A person who's trying to get ahead in the world, and to just focus on the business and finances and even self. And so I have to kind of take a step back and do something that's contraindicatory to what I want to do, which is go. I have to take a step back and say, how's my wife? What can I do for her? What can I bless her with? And even though it might seem there's a finite number of time in the day, and by taking time away from my goals and giving it to my wife, that I am losing ground here. Quite the contrary. She is so smart, and she's so wonderful. My personal life is, but I think, wives in general, if you allow them to help you, they're going to bless you. They see things from a completely different point of view. Yeah. They are able to see you and your mistakes and say, hey, you look like a fool when you do that, so maybe you should do that. And
right.
If I'm just gung-ho running around on my own, I can't see or hear that. I also have to be in a position, this has been the hardest thing for me, is to accept her suggestions just as such.
Right.
And not say, well, get her done, you do this, because really she just wants the same thing that I want, which is success.
Right.
So if I can stop, check my ego and say, thank you for that thing that you just said that felt like a dagger to my side, but I'm going to get over that and say thank you, because that's going to make me a better human being. And I think when I was able to learn to do that and see her as my friend and not my enemy, then everybody got better. And she's so good at it. And I really, on the other side of that coin, wives, be very careful in how you encourage or discourage your husbands, and you can build them up. Be very selective with your words. Your words have power to destroy, so be very careful.
So come over here, Lindsay, and speak to that just a little bit, maybe about. So, you know, I think this is a very important thing for women to understand, is how to manage men, right? Because there is a way to tell us what to do without it sounding like you're telling us what to do. Is that something that you had to learn?
Yeah, definitely. I think that if you can convey that it's for the betterment of all, that it's for the good of all, it's not necessarily, me being selfish or demanding, or that, I've got, the vision that you don't have, but rather than like, hey, I just feel that, for the whole family, that, if we can collectively work this way together, that, it will be uplifting to us as a family trying to accomplish all of our goals together. And
if I might interrupt too, I think the reason that she is able to communicate to the family is because she communicates to the Father first. And she, every day, she grabs that peace and that wisdom, that direction, that discernment, so that she can go and impart that. It's not just Lindsay, sending out what she thinks is best. It's truly she's getting wisdom first, and then she, through that peace is able to convey to me. And I've got to do my part to stay, centered as well, so we can hear that, we can meet in the middle.
Now, is that something, though, that you had to learn? You probably didn't come out of the box with that ideology. Was there a crisis or a mentor, somebody that put that in your mind?
Definitely, yeah. Unfortunately, I lost my mom to cancer when I was 3 years old, just a month shy of turning 4. And so I felt a lot of loss early on, and a lot of just, having to find a higher power, having to find a reason as to why I would go through these types of things as a child, just, not being like the other kids, and, trying to find my identity in a single parent home, and, things of that nature. And I had some, wonderful grandmother influences in my life, and Christian friends who, brought me to church and spoke the word of, just mercy and grace and comfort of the Lord over me, that my future would be bigger and much brighter, and that, if I could depend on God, that and believe in His mercy and in His bigger plan for my life, that I didn't have to identify myself with being a victim or with being less than or having less than, that, His love was complete. And so that relationship was cultivated early on in my life, and then it continued to prove itself to be so fundamental in every building block that I ever had from then on. And of course, there were times when, I had more of a distant relationship, in college and things, when you just aren't really, as focused in, that faith. But then as I've become a mother, there's no other way to love a child and to see a child be born perfect and healthy and complete without realizing that those types of things come from our Heavenly Father.
But I can speak to that crisis, and I'll tell you this. I grew up, knowing wrong from right, and in college trying to just test the limits as much as possible and being all about selfish, trying to fulfill my selfish desires. And I met her in college my senior year, and when I first saw her walk up, literally on this side, I felt, before I even saw her, I was like, something wonderful is about to happen. When I turned and saw her, and my first reaction was, there you are. There you are. And that's all. I didn't think that thought. It just came to me. It literally was kind of directly downloaded. And
this is first impression,
first moment, first second. I was talking to her friend, where you are, a girl who I went to church with as a kid, and just having a random conversation. She walked up, and I was like, there you are. Immediately I was smitten. And I will say this, though. She reminded me of the kind of woman that I knew I needed to be with. But again, I was pushing parameters. And so after being a typical, self-centered, carnal gentleman at that age, she said, you know what, I can do better, and you're not the kind of guy for me. So for the next, and it rocked me. It took me about 6 months now. I was like, I got to get this girl back. This is what I want. I know that to be the kind of man, to have the kind of life I want to live on all 5 Fs, before I even knew what the 5 Fs were, I knew I needed her in my life. So I spent the next 5 years pursuing her.
Wow.
There were times where she wouldn't pick up my phone call. And then finally, when she did pick it up, she was like, listen, this is not happening. I've moved on. I have a new boyfriend. Lose this number. And that happened on a few different occasions, at least this many and more. And I courted her and I pursued and I said, Lord, please, just if this is meant to be, then let her.
What was that about, Lindsay?
Just he hadn't proven himself to be the man that I knew that I needed for my life. When I met him in college, he wasn't ready to commit. He was still having a good time and all that. Very understandably so. He was young, but I needed more. I needed more growth and love and commitment from a man. And so he hadn't proven that to me yet. And I had moved on. I had a new boyfriend and stuff like that. And so,
I tell you, these kids and animals, boy. I mean, they.
Indicator of your personality.
My heart needed in order to be happy for the rest of my life. And once he had the chance to really prove that to me, the first night that he did, I said, this is it. We are together. This is our relationship is meant to last. And I moved out of New York City 9 months later, and we got engaged 2 months after that. And
so now, was this other guy, was this just a way to bring Daniel in line, right, to let him know that?
Yes.
But I will say this thing, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because over the course of those 5 years, I was really able to execute on my dreams and plans, and I knew to get her back that I had to be that guy, the guy that I was not the first time. And I said, Lord, please give me a second chance. I will do right this time. And I took probably 20 years of personal growth and development, and I forged it into 5. I didn't date. People were like, this guy, he's single, are you okay? Why don't you date? And I knew what I wanted, I knew what I wanted, and I knew that I was going to go get it if it killed me. And in the process of becoming that guy, I knew that when the student was ready, the teacher would appear. I knew that when I was ready for another opportunity with her, that it would present itself. And so it did, just like that.
Ready.
I got myself ready, and then I was bold and courageous about it. And even though I've heard 3 or 4 times, don't call me anymore, which is painful to hear. I mean, it hurts.
I didn't know yet.
Well, it's okay. I mean, it was good. I'm a better dad now. And I'll tell you something else, too. My appreciation for her, because of how hard I worked to get back into her life, I mean, I think about it all the time. I mean, I would never want to do anything silly or foolish. And so it was almost like the championship climb was worth it, because now I appreciate it. And I also know as a person, it helped me in gumption and just getting, executing on what I wanted and what I knew I needed in my life.
And believing in your dreams that you can achieve them and that you will. Yeah.
But was that something that you had to be steered into? I mean, there had to be, you said you were in college, right? Uh-huh. I mean, there had to be at least one other chick there that was good looking, right?